There's a few more, so and the couch at the back, if we can utilise that, particularly with people's legs. It's actually really good to see now. So, yeah. This space was started in 2012 with the purpose of supplying a high-quality private shooting and styling space for agency designers, photographers, and videographers in Perth. And we've, clients here have included Nova FM, the Perth Fashion Festival, and various PR firms and agencies. And tonight it's opening up to a wider audience, and I'd really like to thank you for entering this space to create. I'll pass it over to Russell, who will be our first speaker, and then we'll have Angelita, and then we'll move on to Matt. And ideally, we won't keep you standing for too long. Russell, just go to the picture. Good.
Hi everyone. When Brendan suggested we do this, I thought it'd be great for me to bring a client along and a designer to show the sort of relationship between the three. So, can I introduce Suellen Tapsall from the AIM UWA Exec Ed, Karina from Dash Digital, and I'll probably hand over to Suellen to sort of tell you about the concept that she wanted to get across in the design and where we went with that over several years. Thanks, Suellen.
Thanks very much. As Russell said, I'm from AIMWA UWA Business School Executive Education. And if you think that's a mouthful, imagine trying to tell that story in design, in marketing collateral. It's actually really tough. And we've brought, if you want to, share around, we've brought some examples of the evolution of our directory design. Sorry, I'll give it to the person with the wine glass. Over a period of years. So we were looking to tell a story which was about UWA Business School, iconic, 100 years old, and AIM, not-for-profit professional membership organisation, supporting development, executive education to people at senior levels in West Australia and overseas. And there are the 3 Ps that, if you like, are part of the story of UWA Business School, which are people, place and partnership. Both of those organisations are iconic Western Australian organisations. So we started off doing the traditional things, we had primary colours and no faces. That was probably, Karina, about 8-10 years ago. And as we moved through a process, both UWA Business School moved into an iconic new building. AIM also built new premises. And we decided that one of the things that we were trying to tell the world was about our place in Western Australia. So we made a commitment that in our directories, so that's the annual publication of our programs, that we wanted to feature real people, real places in which we did our business, and real partnerships. And my background was from a newspaper, magazine, corporate communications background, and we also wanted to tell a story. And so we wind up with some quite interesting publications. We had worked with Dash, what is now Dash Digital and was Chameleon for the last 8 years, and have also worked with Russell for most of that time. And so we were really looking to show people interacting with the environment, interacting with each other, and learning. The White Directory, which is 2011, won a silver medal, was it, Karina, in WA Screen Awards, Print Awards. And we learned a few lessons along the way, like something can look really good, but if it's the wrong size for the post and it doesn't fit into the mailbox, you're in trouble. So the bronze one that's going around beautiful, beautiful directory got us into lots of trouble. So that's probably enough from me, and I'll hand over to Karina.
Hi everyone. So I suppose my job as a designer is to interpret this visual brand story from Suellen. Also act to bring the photographer as well and make sure we get the best kind of imagery that we can as well from them that helps tell this story. Yeah, it's always been a pleasure working with Suellen and the alliance between executive education and AIM and with Russell, because we always get to work on these really fun projects that do push the envelope quite a lot. So I suppose what we try to do through these projects is strengthen the positioning and reinforce the brand. And as Suellen said, the brand is all about real people, real partnerships, and real places. So you'll see in the white directory, it was all based around Cottesloe, and yeah, Russell captured some really great images of the
Facilitators and
that's right, sorry, the facilitators and the faculty that are all part of the executive education. Probably see some of those. And I suppose the theme behind this was really getting an insight into the experience of the programs and also into the people that facilitated these programs. So the brief was really no direct to camera shots. Everything was people in conversation, going about what they would do if they were facilitating a class, but the place is just removed and in Cottesloe.
Probably the other thing I'd say before throwing back to Russell is that if you have a look at the coppery coloured directory, the shorter one, it's not either of those two. It's got a big blue bar across it. What you won't know if you haven't been out to the business school is that there are shapes and imagery there that capture this beautiful, iconic new business school and the metals of that school. And in that first directory, we were really trying to show this partnership and this sort of seamless integration of the West Australian environment and the buildings in which we operated. And there are just some images in there for me that are art more than anything else. They're just beautiful. We've really trusted Russell and that ability to work with a photographer who can take and understand what you want to do, work collaboratively with the designer and interpret your theme. A couple of the other hidden things that sit. Faceture has been important to us because there are lots of facets in the way in which we operate, and we're a joint venture, so we have all of these overlapping worlds that collide together, and those things typically emerge through the design and the artwork that we use.
I suppose in summary, it's really just a case of just being a team and working together and making sure that the message is clear to each part of that team, and then you can create some really lovely work. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'll get Angelita to come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello everyone. My name is Angelita Bonetti. As you can tell from my accent, I'm not from Perth. I'm from Italy. I will tell you something about me just 30 seconds. I moved to Perth 4 years ago from the busy and beautiful Milan, where I started to work there for several interior magazines. I'm a freelance photographer, and I'm specialized in interior and architectural photography, but I'm also working in different photography fields like weddings, events, and portrait. Working in the editorial and advertising environment, I understand the importance of collaboration with a graphic designer, as well as the creative team involved in the photo shoot, such as stylists, art directors, and designers. On this matter, I have a good example that I would like to show you. So, I've been lucky to be chosen to shoot the IKEA cover for the winter brochure of 2013 and also for this year, 2014. The free law advertising agency contacted me to speak about the idea they had for the brochure cover. As Perth is a windy city, the idea was to recreate the wind feeling within the shop with colorful objects flying and like a black background. They sent me an email with their initial sketch as reference. And this one was the initial sketch they sent me. As you can see, the furniture and the props look like they are flying. There is a good movement and energy between them. But to be able to reproduce something like that, I understood right away that this shoot was going to be something a bit different from the other one. Shortly after the first brief, I had a meeting with the agency, our director, the graphic designer, with which Luke here, and the clients and the stylist. During the meeting, the clients showed us the sketch they did, which was a bit more precise in terms of spaces, kind of furniture and props they wanted to have in the shop. And the other sketch was this one. It's a good work of the graphic and how to see all the spaces that are working together. So with the actual sketch in front of us, we spoke more about the spaces, the distances we needed in order to organize what we wanted. It was also very important to have a good balance between the right and the left of the image, because the right of the image was going to be the front of the cover, and the left of the image was going to be the back of the cover. So for the full photo had to be created thinking of something like that as well. Because it was to be shot from above, the floor had to look like the wall. We needed to have enough area between the camera and the floor to be able to put this big furniture. We also needed clear space around for the text, included headline, logo, and prices. So it was clear that we needed a very high ceiling to be able to achieve the result we wanted. We decided to do the shoot in my studio in Subiaco, and the day before the shoot, we obviously have to set up everything for the shooting. So we set up a platform on top of the set where we positioned the camera connected remotely with the computer. And underneath it, we created the fake black wall with painted backboards. The day after, everything was ready to go. As first thing, the stylist, Anna Flanders, my business and life partner, Alan, who is here, and I, arranged all the furniture and props on the floor, following the sketch we've been given at the meeting. And I'll show you the setting up step by step. So we started to put the furniture, and obviously we realized that we weren't so centered. So we moved them a bit up, we put the other pieces, like the rugs, the cushions. This is Alan setting better the camera. And these one are with other props, the books. And we put this fabric on the middle to try to have a bit more relation between a connection between the front and the back of the cover. But after we realized that this one was a bit too busy, so we changed it with other books and a pink box. With the, sorry. This one. So we did all the process together with the graphic designer, with Luke, to see how we had to move the objects to make sure we have the right space for the layout. We were working with Canon 3D Mark III, which was connected remotely to the Mac. Every shot taken, it went straight in the computer where Luke was working. This allowed him to put the photos on the graphic layout immediately, which was this one. It wasn't long before we realized that we didn't have enough plain space for the text on the edge of the photo. The camera was at the highest maximum distance, and we couldn't go wider with the lens because of the distortion. So we tried to move all the object closer to have more air on the edge, keeping in mind where the prices, the logo, and the headline had to be positioned. And also, the graphic designer suggested to add black edges during the editing, allowing more room for the text. So the problem was solved. The other challenge was to get the right perspective of the object, obviously. In fact, to make them look straight, as you see in the photo, we had to put wood wedges under most of the furniture you see. After a few adjustments and repositioning, we finally got what we wanted, and the art director, the graphic designer, the stylist, all happy to go ahead with the photo. And this one is the final result we had with the layout on top. So I think this one is a very good example to show how it's very important, the collaboration between photographer and graphic designer. And I also have another example I would like to show you, which is an editorial shoot I did for House and Garden. So I work with House and Garden magazine, and with them I always work on a brief they send me the day before the shoot or some days before the shoot. On the brief, there are indications for the shot we have to cover, the styling we have to provide, and the cover option we have to create. This is the cover layout the stylist and I always have to keep in mind when we shoot the cover option. As you can see here, they wrote down all the elements a cover has to provide. Some of the elements are referring to the feeling we have to create. So the photo has to be welcoming, emotive, fresh, airy. And you do that by positioning the furniture in a specific way and also taking the photos from a specific angle. The other important elements are obviously the text spaces, and also you have to get 1 or 2 strong colors, which after they will be used on the title, so on the headline, and also in the other text on the cover. So during the shoot, the stylist and I set up the scene using this layout they provide us. I usually keep the layout open on my computer and add the shot we took straight away on it, so we can straight away see where we need like a plain space and everything. So now I would like to show you a shot we took here in Fremantle, in a beautiful house. And this is a photo we took as a cover option. As you can see, there is enough space on the top of for the headline, and also there is enough space on both sides and on the bottom for the other text lines. And this one is the shot put with the text layout. So I think both of them are good example to show you how graphic designer collaborate with a photographer. So, thank you very much.
Finally, I'd like to invite Matt to chat.
Thank you, and I feel very privileged to be speaking to you. I've particularly I haven't met you, Angelita, but we'll do afterwards. And with Russell, Russell and I were actually at college together about 22 years ago. And I was going to share a funny anecdote. Back in the film days, Russell, after shooting a wedding, left an RB67 on a slick SL67 tripod at Kings Park inadvertently to get to a reception. And when he realised that he left it, he raced back. Not only was it still there, it was slowing down as they approached it. Thinking it was a multi-node. Russell and I had a brief chat this evening. We haven't caught up in many years, and it turns out we both had sort of parallel career paths. We both left the domestic market at about the same time. We both entered or went through the cleansing fire of the digital revolution. So it was the digital revolution sort of chewed and spat out a lot of old photographers, not old but established, what they would call a family photographer. So someone who photographed the first daughter's wedding and the second, and then did the babies and the christenings and everything else. These guys sadly aren't around anymore. My decision to leave the domestic market came about for very personal reasons. I won't go into those, but I decided to take a role in the commercial advertising and corporate world. What I didn't realise throughout my wedding photography days was that inadvertently, and unbeknownst to me, I was actually doing an apprenticeship, if you like, in how to be the calmest person in the room, which I'm not feeling at the moment. When it gave you an understanding on how to deal with people, very ordinary people behave in very inexplicable ways on their wedding day, and that has given me a great run-up, if you like, into the corporate world where I can plan and plan and plan, and I'm given 6 minutes to photograph someone. I don't know if any of you noticed the photograph of Bob Hall up there earlier. That was about 3 weeks in planning for 6 shots. That's all Bob gave me. Anyway, so we've been through this process and we've come up, and I know that there are representatives of some ad agencies here, and there's probably a good reason why I haven't met you yet, and that's because I've sort of maybe fallen through the cracks of the photographic industry, only because I've formed quite organic and one-on-one relationships with people. There's a few of those people here tonight. They're very, very special to me. I won't point them out, I wouldn't embarrass them, but they know who they are, and they're obsessed with fonts. Unlike Angelita's work, I have never ever worked with a stylist in my life. I have found myself in a position at the moment where I'm lucky enough to be welcomed into the loving arms of the UWA in-house design team. I kind of invited myself, but they haven't told me to go away yet, so that's nice. So the nice part about working with them is that we actually know more about, that's between myself and the designer, actually know more about what the client needs than what the client knows, in which case we're able to just unpack it in front of them. And I'm at the point now where I'm actually actively engaged in production meetings. Sort of point out as well, I am a freelance photographer, but I do have a contract with the university, and I'm lucky enough to work there on many, many days of the week. And these images here are one of my favourite assignments throughout the year. This is from the UWA School of Music. There's a designer here this evening who I worked very closely with for quite a period of time for a major WA-based arts organisation, and I don't know what the word is, but we just bemoaned the lack of funds and the lack of money in a major arts organisation. And we joked, the two of us, but we work extremely hard, and we fought, and but the thing was, we used to have this little running joke between ourselves that the London Symphony is one day going to pick up this brochure and go, wow, let's get them. Let's get that design team in. And they book us and they fly us from Perth to wherever we need to go, and just two of us walk in, the designer and me, which brings me to the point that I was going to make to you good people this evening, which was that perhaps I represent what is more prevalent in the Perth market, which is that I consider myself a tradesman in the same way that a plumber or an electrician would creatively solve a problem. There's an image that needs to be captured, and I've got to be creative and just go through the mechanics of getting it there, but it just needs to be done. In which case, we have this situation where, oh, I should scroll through some more pictures for you, I'm sorry. Where we have this situation, oh, shall I just shout? Yeah. Sorry. Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. Well, we just inadvertently have this situation where I now have such an organic relationship with the designers that my relationship with the designers started badly because they would come to me and say, just give us the content and we'll fix it, which affronted all my training and all my heritage and everything that I stood for as someone with, you know, this supposed set of virtues in this craft. I was incredibly affronted with this and decided that, oh, well, okay, I did it. And so I wasn't reluctantly building these relationships. I'm now at the point now where when a designer sends me a brief and they send me a mood board, most of them are my pictures. And that's really, really nice. It's not, oh, we want you to take a photograph like such and such a photographer. Go on, I'm very, very lucky to have arrived at a point in my career where I'm now embedded in an old-fashioned design team with some very, very dear and understanding people. I just want to leave you with this as representative of a photographer from this little town, which is not so little. We can make comparisons to the amount of rock and roll bands from this city that have not only conquered Australia but conquered the world. So when we make a brochure for the UWA School of Music, we're not only competing against Whopper down the road or whoever, but we're thinking much, much, much bigger. And my relationship with designers is such that I am providing photo content for a project, but the designer, in most cases, in 99% of cases that I'm working on, they're the stylist. They're dealing with the client. They're being a wet nurse. They're taking me to the pub afterwards. They're doing art direction. And most importantly, they have to deal with me and all the problems that come along with me. And I'm incredibly humbled by that. And that is something that my attitude towards designers has gone from very dubious beginnings to now when one of my dearest designers sends me a text message on this particular project and says, I found a font. Well, to me, a font used to be something that just sort of made up a word. Now I realise that a font has as much communicative power as the words that it's made up to convey. So I just want to reinforce that I love working with you, and thank you for putting up with me and the likes of me. And there may not be an art director that sends down a directive down to where the bottom feeders are. I like working with you one-on-one, because that's what I do, that's where my strengths are. And, you know, with the last little bit of self-esteem, we're going okay, I think. So I just want to quickly show you these images. This was the UWA School of Music. This is the 2014 season brochure, where through a series of quite honest, mutual respect, the designer and I created individual Pinterest boards, which we shared, and we took inspiration from all sorts of places. and we created these characters that went back and forwards in time. And this, see, again, this is an example of all the little things that you see within that shot there, all provided by our designer, made by our designer. They're not sourced from props, they're all, we just did it ourselves. It's incredibly organic. And so that's good. So, sorry, Brendan, how do I get to the, just very quickly, I wouldn't want to have this scrutinised too much, simply because this is our final result. So this is the 2014 School of Music brochure, which I was inspired with the Rembrandt lighting technique, and we just created a series of images which took a very, very, very long and established way of lighting with just a massive light bank. That's a Belgian linen backdrop which I had made, which I've always wanted. And then we let the soul and the brilliance of each of these bona fide students come through and allow us to make this wonderful brochure. And that's my little dog. And I'm incredibly proud to be part of this. And the good news is that ticket sales are up. This is the 3rd year in a row, and we just want to keep that going. So this is a very, very minute example of what we do, and I think that like I said, so hopefully represent what we do here in Perth, that we give you some big good goals. So thank you for listening.
Thanks everyone, and I've got a few thank yous. Firstly, the AGDA Council, so they're the people with blue badges on. Some of them don't have a badge, but we donate our time and energy, obviously for free, and we love preparing events like this for you, and that's why I'd like to thank you for coming as well, the audience. It's obviously against routine to sort of come across town and engage in this type of professional betterment, but I think Perth's creative industry can only benefit from this type of storytelling and sharing, and it's perhaps our only defence against this outsourcing of jobs overseas and this sort of overuse of iStock and photo libraries in general, which I've spoken to a few of you tonight, and it is very much a falsification of Perth. You start seeing the same iStock of happy, smiling white people represent Australia. So thank you for sort of coming and just being inspired by this PD. And lastly, I'd like to thank our speakers tonight, Russell Barton, Angelita, Bonetti, and Galligan, who also donated their time for free, and each of them offered insight into their chosen craft. You can obviously get a sense of their passion, and it isn't easy to distill your career into less than 15 minutes, and I know that you're all standing, but I think they did a fantastic job, so please thank them again. You're welcome to have another drink, we're welcome to eat up the food, and yeah, thank you again for coming out tonight. Cheers. Thanks, mate. Thank you so much. It's great way to book in. Thanks. I feel a little bit better now. I think if there were only going to be 3 people to come up, I don't know so straight.
Yes, I presentation.